Hey everyone, today we're diving deep into a topic that's crucial for anyone involved in marketing and sales, especially if you're working with long consideration funnels in B2B or B2C. I'm going to break down why popular attribution models like marketing mix modeling and multi-touch attribution often fail in these complex scenarios. We'll explore the important question you need to ask vendors during your selection process and discuss practical solutions you can implement right away. If we haven't met before, I'm Charlie from Growth Dynamics. I help companies with complex buyer journeys optimize their go-to-market strategies for true business impact. So let's dive into this together. Let's start with the MTA. Many vendors claim that you can track the entire buyer journey using MTA, but let's be straightforward here. It's a complete lie. You might be thinking, why is that? Well, a lot of important touchpoints simply aren't trackable. And for the ones that are, the data to bridge them often doesn't exist or is highly unreliable. Because of this, you cannot use MTA to understand what drives revenue. You cannot use MTA to measure or optimize. An absolute no-go. The journey is fragmented and only data you're typically able to attach to this opportunity is from the bottom of the funnel. This is why companies using MTA for optimization often overinvest in retargeting, bottom-of-funnel initiatives like lead gen or paid search. Once, the MTA of a $500 million revenue e-com company was attributing 1% revenue to Meta, while Meta was mentioned 30% of the time in post-purchase forms. This was showing the inability for MTA to truly grasp the impact of that channel to the bottom line. A lot of research papers have concluded that the incrementality of retargeting campaigns is very limited. Of course, this depends on the business. Overall, the companies spend way too much on retargeting and paid search and other lead gen ads because they're relying on MTA. For instance, MTA isn't able to pick up referrals and will assign everything to your marketing initiative. For that same company, we're talking about 30% of the revenue was coming from friends, family, or colleagues, as per the self-reported attribution data. Another example I see quite often is when a user from a former company decided to use that product again. Marketing had really limited impact on this one. The MTA will report 500 impressions on LinkedIn, one product detail page read, a demo request through paid search, and so on. But the reality is that the product itself did promote that product and the user loved it so much that he wanted to use it again. Marketing didn't have any impact on that. In the last Gartner report, Gartner mentioned that buyers have prior experience with at least of one of their vendors they're evaluating 90% of the time. So people are using experience over promotion. I'm telling you, this is happening all the time. In the vast majority of cases, when I compare sales notes and MTA insights, I rarely agree. And the one that's right is definitely the sales team because they spend time with the client or the prospect. This misalignment can create a strong tension between sales and marketing, leading you spending your money in the wrong place. Finally, the impression and ad view solution is really a good one. First, because offside of LinkedIn, these are probability models for which we can't really track accuracy. And in LinkedIn, we have a real incrementality problem. What is an impression for LinkedIn? It is a view that lasts at least a third of a second. So just to give you an example, you take 1.5 seconds just to say the word impression. Like, we can't read at that pace. So the impression report you see on LinkedIn are vastly misleading. And it's very easy to get touch point for each ideal customer profile, but it doesn't mean that you had any impact. First, because, for example, of the definition of impression, but also because you could post a blank page and you'd still get a touch point. Once I had a marketing team claiming a contribution on almost all the deals before because of their retargeting campaigns. An absolute madness. Statistics show that more than 65% of buyers use multiple channels to engage with vendors. MTA struggles to measure the incrementality of each channel contribution, especially when it comes to organic touchpoints, which are less easily tracked. Now, where can MTA be useful? The data is more present than accurate at the bottom of the funnel. You can get interesting data that allows you to optimize the conversion, but you need to do robust incrementality tests to isolate the real contribution of those actions. MTA will give you the data, but not the answers. A lot of MTA vendors use intent data, so I want to share a quick feedback on that. The accuracy is terrible, so you can't really rely on for measurement or optimization. However, this can be very interesting for the sales team to find signals about certain companies coming on your website, which is an early indicator. Timing is extremely important when the buyer's signals stay in the market. If you found this video insightful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow for more. Now let's shift gears and talk about MMM. First off, what is MMM? Marketing Mix Modeling. It's a complex regression tool that finds a relationship between your spend, impression, and with your revenue. There are some limitations to these models that vendors often don't highlight. MMM relies heavily on correlation between spend and revenue, which becomes less effective when the consideration time is very long, which is very often the case in B2B. Imagine your average customer journey, draw a distribution between 0 to the longest journey. For the short journeys, distribution will be high and narrow. For long consideration journey, the same distribution will be low and very wide. These just drastically increase the noise in the model, which can lead to misleading conclusion and non-causal relationship. MMM is also slow to react. It requires at least 2 years of historical data, making it slow to respond to change, whether it's shift in the market, new marketing initiative, or adjustment in pricing. Also, there's a lack of granularity. The more granular we get, the more noise we introduce into the data. This makes it difficult for MMM to establish a clear correlation between your marketing spend and your revenue. Additionally, MMM tends to attribute more to the channel that contribute to lower in the funnel and doesn't correctly attribute upper funnel initiative. In B2B, especially the journey between when the lead is open and the opportunity is closed is so long, and the sales contribution to the deal is significant. There's a lot you can do to influence the outcome of that lead. I personally designed a lead scoring model looking at the activity in the CRM, such as download, newsletter subscription, webinar sign up, number of email from the same company, and sales activity. Warming those leads up had a significant impact on the outcome. MMM will fail to grasp that. So what's the solution? You can create an MMM that looks at opportunity open instead of revenue, and then build a probabilistic model using digital and CRM activity from the lead open to deal close. Of course, few vendors do this because it's much more complex to offer than just fitting spend and revenue, but it's the way forward. For B2C, when consideration is long, you can do the same and look for add-to-cart actions instead of revenue. For example, when you build a probabilistic model to fit the add-to-cart to revenue using product characteristic, time since added to cart, and other factors, this allows you to remove the additional complexity of time series elements. Remember our two distributions, the short one and the long one. An earlier signal will have a higher and narrower distribution. Least but not last, MMM is correlation, not causation, so it should be used as a signal that should be confirmed with a test. It is not a true performance of your campaign. This issue increases with the length of your consideration journey. Let me give you a real-world example. I once improved the ROI of a 20 million upper funnel initiative by 10%, and here's how we did it. In both sales attribution and MMM, we saw a signal that a specific initiative didn't look good on paper. We had 2 signals already. We looked at website traffic in the data, and that source was sharing the exact same story. It's important to say that not a single measurement method will give you the right answer. You'll have to look at several sources to find alignment and build your story. We then did the exact same exercise to understand where we should allocate this money instead, and run a diminishing return analysis to ensure the picked initiative had enough depth to take the additional budget. We made the change, saw an increase in performance, and saw no negative impact on the organic bottom of the funnel traffic. This is very important because we have campaigns that drive people to come through Google search or direct instead of clicking on the link. In conclusion, despite these limitations, MMM remains a powerful tool, and there are effective ways to address these challenges, which are rarely offered by vendors. Make sure you have those questions ready during your selection process. As explained earlier, no method will give you a full answer, and you should instead implement several methodologies to find alignment between sources and build your story. I've mentioned a few, but let's repeat them. Self-attribution. It's so cheap to implement, and in my experience more aligned with a sales node than MTA. Both MTA and MMM are not capable of tracking referrals and also have a much stronger resiliency problem than self-attribution. Funnel analysis. Google Analytics data allows you to track site actions by source and campaign at several levels in the funnel. You can use a visit scoring system or use tools like Full Analytics to evaluate the value of your journey. Brand queries. You can track your branded traffic using Google Search Console, the higher the traffic, the better your funnel are performing. Also, outbound intro question. Just like self-attribution, instead of relying on complex and expensive tools to make educated guess about where the traffic comes from, let's just ask the source. Plus, this will strengthen the relationship between your marketing and sales team. Experimentation. Last but not least, experiments, geo-testing, pre-post analysis, incrementality, you name it. There are a lot of tests you can do using the several sources I mentioned before. For example, you can correlate the impression of your LinkedIn post with your branded search query and direct traffic to see the impact of your post. Yes, I'm not a big fan of impression, but I did some successful tests like this. This should work for medium-sized companies which do not have too many initiatives at the same time. You can do a lot of pre-post tests to find the real added value of your branded search query and retargeting. There are many ways you can use a testing framework. Again, what is important is your capability to build a story, because no single tool will tell you everything you need. And remember the importance of causality in your analysis. So when you're talking to vendors, ask them how to address this challenge. Do they offer solutions that consider long consideration time? Can they integrate multiple data sources to give you a complete picture? These are crucial questions that will help you to select a vendor who can truly meet your needs. To wrap these things up, both MMM and MTA have significant limitations when it comes to long consideration funnel, but that doesn't mean that you're out of options. By using a combination of self-attribution, funnel analysis, tracking brand queries, engaging with your team, conducting experiments, you can build a holistic view of your marketing performance. I've also done a longer video on the pitfalls of MTA. If you're interested in diving deeper, go check that out. Bye.